Okay, welcome to the coronavirus edition of Geology 1401. We're going to start talking about global climate change. So the first question I usually start off with when talking about climate change is, what is climate? What is climate? And one of the most common answers I get is weather. But it's actually not true. So climate is not weather. Weather has its own definition. So weather can be defined as the state of the atmosphere at a specific place and time. Weather can include many of these conditions. We could have temperature, humidity, precipitation, wind, things like its direction or its speed, other sorts of atmospheric conditions. All of those are included in the definition of weather. So for example, I can take my iPhone, go to the weather for Amarillo. We can see, multiple day forecast, and we've got things like chance of rain, humidity, the wind is 13 miles an hour out of the south, the precipitation, air pressure, air quality, right? All these different things are the weather that we're familiar with on a daily basis. Okay, in contrast, climate has its own definition. Climate is a broad composite of the average conditions of a region measured over a long time. And by a long time, we mean sort of at least a year. At least a year could be decades, could be 100 years, could be 1,000 years. Climate is time-averaged weather. It's the weather of a particular region over a very, very long time. Again, that could be years, could be years, decades, centuries, etc. And the conditions of a region are essentially these same conditions here. Essentially, climate is time-averaged weather. So what is the difference between climate and weather? The shortest, simplest answer is time. Climate is a broad composite of the weather of a region over time. So again, bringing in the weather app here, so we can see that right now it's sunny in Amarillo. It's going to get cloudy later, and while it is often sunny in Amarillo, sometimes it rains, sometimes it snows. So the weather of Amarillo cannot really be described with a single word. However, the climate you might describe of this part of the world, you might say, well, It rains, but not very often, so it's arid. You might say that it's windy in general, right? That seems to be like a seasonal wind. So you can make these sort of average statements about the conditions of the atmosphere in a given place. Okay, if we're going to talk about climate, which is essentially weather over a long period of time, we should learn a little bit about what causes weather and how global weather patterns work. So what causes weather? Weather is caused by small disturbances in the temperature, pressure, moisture content, other sorts of atmospheric conditions of the atmosphere, which occur as part of the global scale redistribution of heat from the sun. This redistribution of heat from the sun is going to be the most important process when we try to think about understanding global weather and global climate.